Well, my advice is an obvious one that any reasonable person with knowledge of law and legal practice would make, and that is hear both sides. And then, having heard both sides, then make an effective decision that will solve the problem. Well, of course, I have no doubt in my mind that the present government is actually fighting corruption in accordance with its mandate and its promises. There's no question about that. But on the specific issue of the secretary, the former secretary to the government, suspended secretary to the federal government, and the director of the NIA, I would agree that action has been much too slow. And there should be immediate decision on this matter so that we can put it to rest and move on. I agree with that.
Judging from the daunting problem facing our country today, I believe Mr. President should devote more time to other things and let an independent person run the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and be able to report to him if it is 2 times a week, if it's weekly, if it's bi-weekly, as much as possible. Let other people handle this ministry, because that is where the bulk of the income of this country comes from, and we cannot afford to have any pile-up, of things that should be done quickly in the ministry.
Would you suggest that Mr. Baru, Mekanti Baru, that is the GMD of NNPC, and Dr. Ibe Kachiku, on the other hand, should step aside pending the moment of this investigation is over?
I believe so, especially the man who is doing the day-to-day running of the organization, in order not to hinder or hamper, that investigation, because records will be needed, and even from the date of the leakage of that letter, I think action should have been taken to ensure that we'll be missing the investigation starts. So I believe that the two of them, should be asked to step aside temporarily, and when the investigation is over, whoever is culpable will go, and whoever is not culpable will continue with his duties.
Welcome back, everyone. So, as expected, this back and forth between the two powerful men of Nigeria's all-important sector has got Nigerians talking. One of the latest coming from Senator Shehu Sani, and hear him. He said, and I quote, PMB should set up a presidential committee led by Professor Tam David West or Professor Jibril Aminu to investigate the issues in the NNPC. Also, the GMD and Minister of State should temporarily step aside. PMB, that is President Muhammadu Buhari, must take this issue seriously, because the figure of $25 billion, whether true or false or exaggerated, can stick in the memory of Nigerians for a long time and will cast a dark shadow on the legacy of the administration. End of quote. Let's get talking. The interview there with Senator Alasha Adra and Professor Isesage was last night's recording. And so just to give some perspective into what other people were talking about. Before I come back to you, Mr. Zakabala, there are a lot of responses from what the minister said and what the GMD is saying now. It does look like the two of them are presenting their cases, but it looks like the case of the NNPC is presented to the public because it's a statement written, but that letter was sent to the president.
Exactly.
One now wonders how the president will handle this case. A lot of people are already asking that the two of them should even step aside. In fact, that the president should relinquish that seat as the Minister of Petroleum.
Yes, I agree with you completely, because the president holding on to that seat also has created a lot of problem, because you have a situation where, by virtue of the provisions of the NNPC Act, the board supervises, the affairs of the corporation. And in the case of service contract, there is no way the GMD can say, you award service contract, or that these are not contracts per se. Contract for swap, crude swap arrangement, contract for off-takers for crude. You say they are not contract per se, and so there was no need to discuss it with the board that is supposed to be in charge of the affairs of the government.
But and you don't want a board meeting every time.
You don't. No. But the issue is
the law empowered Mr.
The tender board
to be able to actively run the agency.
I did spell it out for you that in terms of procurement. In terms of procurement, public procurement, the Public Procurement Act it's superior to the NNPC Act in terms of public procurement only, because that guides public procurement for all, ministries and intergovernmental agencies. But in as far as service contracts are concerned, and also in cases where where the approval threshold is above that of the tender board, and you need to seek the approval of FEC, you would need to get the concurrence of the ministry.
But if you look at the response of Mr. Baru, from your own point of view,
yes.
If I go to Mr. Bala now, do you think Mr. Baru explained and responded to all of the allegations?
No, they didn't. Because even the allegations about the staffs, the management staffs that were appointed, they stylishly left that issue. And I think the NNPC response was, being too technical with the issues. These are plain issues.
Mr. Olisabakoba is already in court on this matter, on the appointments being made. Let me go to Mr. Bala
really?
on the operational issues and
yes.
the issues of accountability. The Vice President did tell us that they are doing an audit of the NNPC. How transparent could it be if you look at what has been written by Mr. Baru to the response of the NNPC? Are you satisfied with the explanation?
To be honest, I'm not interested in who is right or who is wrong. But when
we talk about transparency
yes.
and accountability,
yes.
if there is an allegation that
yes.
you spend this amount, you did not follow due process in contractual matters, from the explanation of Mr. Baru that you have read through,
yes.
Are you satisfied?
As far as I'm concerned, it will still be subjected to analysis, But the key thing now is this. We just have to look at it straight. As we speak today, there is confusion and friction between the two most senior people superintending all over the Nigerian oil and gas industry. And we're talking about a country like in the continent of Africa that domiciles the highest proved reserve of crude oil. And when you say a reserve is proved, you are just basically saying, based on existing geology and reservoir characteristics, you can get that crude oil with high degree of certainty. As we speak today, because of this strategic friction and disharmony, we are not sure of how the final petroleum industry bill will come out. Very soon, there is likely going to be these marginal field bid rounds. We were always hoping that towards the end, the 46 marginal fields will be bidded for, and the best people should be given the opportunity. So once you have confusion at strategic levels like that, so many things will be kept on hold.
That remember taking because of your experience. Just a moment. Because of your experience as an accountant,
yes,
and you're a petroleum engineer.
Correct.
From what you have seen today, and we've been talking about these allegations back and forth. If you are Mr. President,
yes,
as you see it,
yes,
who superintend over all of these affairs,
yes,
what would be your first decision?
The first decision is I would just let these two gentlemen understand that with the respect I have for them, I'm a bit disappointed that all these scripts from the two gladiators went out. That will be my first statement.
You don't think there are some mismanagement of processes here?
No, you see, when you talk about when you talk about audit, from my experience as a chartered accountant, there are so many things to look at there. Like when I saw the responses from Baru, I started looking at some of those projects, like he explained, the Cheetah project, right, the Santolina project, and I saw the Falcon project. We knew about this. We knew about the third-party financing. Right? We also knew that there is a difference between NNPC board and NNPC tenders board. All these technicalities are there. But the key thing is this. We were supposed to be conscious of our public and private persona, and shouldn't have allowed this thing to come to the surface.
There is no way, in spite of all the explanations, yes, for some are procurement contracts, some are service contracts, and so for service contract, the approving authorities, Mr. President. And then the question you now ask, then what is the function of the board? If by virtue of the NNPC Act, the board is to, run the affairs of the corporation. So what's the function of the board if you still have a president who sits as a minister of petroleum resources, and then you have a minister for state who is the chairman of the board? What it means is that you can jettison the board. The board is irrelevant, and that's what that explanation is simply saying. But I say no, that for procurement purposes, you can, once consistently, including the letter from, the explanatory letter from the secretary to the government of the federation. And mind you, even as at the time that letter came, there was no board in existence.
Do you think the EFCC is weighing on this one?
What I had expected, Mr. President, to do would have been call both parties in, let appropriate blame to where blame should be appropriated to, and let them address a joint press conference admitting that mistakes have been made, and that from this moment onwards, there will be no need. Lessons have been learned. There will be no need to take approval above the chairman of the board to a substantive minister.
We need to close now.
And take it
we need to close. Mr. Bala, just a statement. Do you think both men should step aside?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, yes, but not suspended. Suspension will be like humiliation. Stepping aside makes sense.
Petroleum engineer and chartered accountant, Mr. Liberals Oshoma, our lawyer. Many thanks, gentlemen, for your thoughts there. Just before we go, I think there is no better time for the president to step in, and he may have to adopt a principle which has been tested. He needs to consider what is right rather than who is right. And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for being part of it. I'm Sean Akimale. Bye for now.